Okay, everybody. Welcome back to Tales from the Trap. So, we have some absolutely amazing questions that were emailed into the podcast that I cannot wait to answer. It's so nice to have follower questions and not chat GBT questions. Um, I just, you know, Okay, so she says, sorry if you've already answered these questions, but when did your drug use start? So I have answered this question before, but that's okay because there's so many people that are coming in that don't know who I am, so I don't mind going through it. So my drug use started extremely young. I'm 39 today. I'll be 40 in October, and my addiction started probably when I was like 15, 16. So it started like how it usually starts with alcohol and pot and cocaine. And it was not very frequent that I would use substances. And I really didn't like smoking weed, but it was a lot of heavy, heavy, heavy drinking. Drinking. I was not one for cocaine. Cocaine, I never really liked it. I was not an upper kind of person. So I did do it, but just because I was an addict. And I knew from the minute I started trying substances that it was going to be a problem. And it became a problem really quickly. So I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. I was in high school, and the thing at the time was raves, right? So I started going to raves in high school, and I started with doing all the rave drugs. Ketamine was like my favorite. I was very addicted to ketamine. I loved ketamine. Not addicted, just like I was an addict. I was an addict. Um, so that with ecstasy and like Molly, GHB, shit like that, it was like rave drugs, party drugs. But it got to the point where I was partying from like Thursday, Friday to like Tuesday, and I was going to school in high school, fucked right up. And then I got caught at school using, and my parents were brought in. I think this was in grade 11. My parents were brought in. They didn't know what to do really. Like especially then because of the times. Hold on, I got to get this cat out of here. She's sorry. So at the times, my parents didn't know what to do. So they would like take me to camp and like be like, don't do drugs. But there was never a conversation like, hey, we know you're experimenting now. You realize that there is a predisposition to serious addiction and horrible mental health in our family. Like there was no conversation like that. Which I really think, even if I didn't listen, I think being just educated, that I didn't know that until I was already a fucking addict for 10 years. I was like, oh, I didn't know all of my grandparents were in AA. So, and not just my grandparents, like on both sides of the family, serious alcoholism, and addiction, like horrible mental health, like schizophrenia and crazy shit. Um, and I didn't know any of that. So it just kept progressing and progressing and progressing. And then when I was 17, almost 18, I had met this guy. I'd been with him for quite a bit, like almost a year, maybe on and off. He was very violent. He was always hitting me. He was always trashing the house. He trashed the house every chance he got. Like, he couldn't just get mad. He would have to break everything in the house. And I was just a teenager. It was like my first apartment, and my parents were having to come and rescue me. And then he introduced me to Oxycontin. So I was a child and he was an adult, and his friends were even older. So I was like, hanging out with 30-year-olds in my late adolescence, 17, 18, 19, which is they're a bunch of sick fucks. We know that today, but we didn't back then, right? They're whole ass pedophiles. I'm sorry, no 21-year-old man should be fucking a 17-year-old. You're a pedophile. You're a pedophile. My baby dad is a pedophile. And all the friends that we were friends with back then are fucking pedophiles. Don't hate the message. It's just fact. I could never imagine being, I just gross. So these older men introduced me to opiates. I didn't know what they were. I had no idea. I just thought, oh, they got a prescription from a doctor. I didn't know they were called hillbilly heroin. I had no idea what opiates were. And that's why I say parents really need to educate their children, because when you know, and I've said this time and time and time again, but I'll say it again, when you live in a fucking community and you know there's an Oxycontin painkiller epidemic going on in your community, and you do not make the teenager that you have that you know is experimenting with drugs aware, that's your fault. That is your responsibility as a parent. Every one of my kids know that there's a fentanyl epidemic going on in our community. My kids know the history of where the fentanyl epidemic stems from, the Oxycontin generation that I am a part of. All of my friends are dead. And all of our addictions stem from Purdue Pharma and Oxy fucking Cotton. Of course, I tell my children that, but my parents never told me anything like that. We know better, we do better. No shade to my mom and dad. They were doing life for the first time, they were parenting for the first time. But because of the mistakes that they made, I know I will never allow myself to make those same mistakes in my recovered brain, and I will never allow somebody that I know and love to make those same mistakes. That's why I tell everybody this. So by 18, I'm walking into my first methadone clinic. I had a horrible addiction to Oxycontin. And that would just progress and progress and progress. And then in 2011, the pills were being taken off the market in our country, in Canada. So we couldn't find them. We couldn't get them. And pills, an 80 milligram Oxycontin was like $150, $200. So we transitioned into other other opiates like hydromorphs and morphine and the red rockets, but we progressed IV drugs. So then now I'm shooting up. So I started shooting up in 2011. Shortly after that, I'm introduced to sex work. So 2011, I have a daughter. She's 4. She ends up having to go live with my parents because he was beating the fuck out of me all the time. So we gave my daughter to my parents. I still stayed with him because I was a fucking sick girl. And then it just progressed and progressed. I ended up homeless, doing sex work, pregnant again. Got pregnant with my daughter Aria in 2013. She was born. I still stayed with him. He put me in the hospital more than once, smashed my head in. I had a bunch of staples in my head, like he was a monster. And I still stayed with him. I had another daughter with him in September of 2013. She was born. And I finally was able to get sober for a minute. And it was the first time that I'd ever tried to get sober. So I got sober. I got rid of him. He went to work. I changed the locks and never looked back. I let my little brother move in, who wasn't little. He's only 2 years younger than me, but it gave me it empowered me to move on from this fucking diabolical relationship that I was in, this horrific relationship with this monster sociopath of a human that is the sperm contributor of my 2 children, my 2 oldest children. So shortly after Ari is born, I'm sober. I'm doing great. I got this brand new baby. My parents are letting me take my other daughter all the time. We're all doing great. We're thriving. And what do we do when we're thriving? We self-sabotage. So I met somebody and I knew he had addiction issues. And by the time I realized that it was a problem, I was already pregnant again. If I could go back and make so many of my choices over, I love my children, but damn, girl, what the fuck were you thinking? So I got pregnant the first time we were together. So we're together maybe 4 weeks, and I find out I'm pregnant with my 3rd child. So his addiction was not good, and my sobriety didn't last very long. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go on to the next one. Okay, so my sobriety doesn't last. His addiction is getting really bad, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm on board too, so I'm doing opiates again. And it wasn't bad. It was probably it wasn't bad, but it was an opiate addiction. Like it's still an addiction. And people are like, what do you mean it wasn't bad? You were doing, yeah, I know, but like in my head at the time, I was like, this isn't that bad. This isn't that bad. Like it's just opiates. We're good. We're good. What the fuck? Even when I explain it now, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, bitch, you were shooting up fucking pain pills. It wasn't that bad. the fuck? But we were managing, so we were really happy. We had this beautiful little family. He took on my youngest, my baby that I had just had when we met. Then we had my third daughter. So at this point, I've got this beautiful family, three beautiful little girls, very cute boyfriend, and my parents buy us this nice house. And within we were together about 2 years, and everything just came crashing down because one night we're all drinking, and I think his brother was over, and we had this barbecue at our new house. And I think it was like the second summer we were there, and we had IV, like needles, works in the house because we would shoot up opiates every once in a while, but it wasn't that bad. So he was like, "Hey, have you ever tried doing Coke that way?" And I was like, "No, I don't really like Coke. Like, no, I'm not into it." And he's like, "Well, do you want to try it?" And I was like, "Sure," because I'm an addict. Of course I'll fucking try it. So I did. And let me just say, and I know I've heard other people say this as well about that, doing cocaine that way, it literally took my soul overnight. Within 60 days of me trying IV cocaine, I was back in sex work. We were beating the fuck out of each other all the time, and we had given up our children. That's how bad it was. It took my soul over fucking night. Okay? So I'm going to blur out his face, but this was us. Sorry, I forgot I had a mic. This was us. And within not even a year of this photo, we lost everything. We lost our kids, everything. This is who I ended up being not long after. So yeah, it was bad. It was bad. So I'm out onto the streets, on doing sex work on the streets, hitting every rock bottom imaginable. And we finally split up in 2018. He goes home and gets clean, and I just keep going. I had another baby in active addiction, given it up for adoption. And I was like, I'm just destined to, I'll never be able to get sober. I just lost the love of my life. I'm just going to keep doing this until I die. But I ran out of veins. I was never made to be a junkie. Okay. Like, look at that big scar on my arm from a huge abscess. But I was all my veins were collapsed in my neck. I was covered in bruises all the time. I was a mess. I was a mess. I want to show you this scar. You see how deep it is? It was a big ball of cocaine in my arm when they they packed it in jail. It was gross. So anyways, long story short, I had no veins left, and my girlfriend was like, "Why don't you just switch to crack?" And I was like, "I don't know how to do that." And she was like, "Well, let me show you." And then I became a crackhead. So from 2018 until 2020, when I got arrested for human trafficking, I was smoking crack, and I couldn't do crack without fentanyl. So now I'm overdosing every other day. So at the end of my run, long story short, after 20 minutes of explanation, at the end of my run, I was using fentanyl and crack and anything else I could get my motherfucking hands on and shoot into my goddamn arm. At the end, I didn't care. I would have done anything, bud. So, yeah, let's go on to the next question. That was a fun story. So, one of the next questions is um, how long until people notice, like family? And what was said? How many times have you been in rehab? So, I've been in rehab, I think 11 times. But like detoxes, rehabs, and mental institutions. So that's what I would do. I've been to every rehab in Ontario, like every single one, and I would get kicked out every time. I hated rehab. Rehab did nothing for me. Nothing. Nobody will get better unless they want to. So rehab was literally just a party for me, and I was constantly just getting kicked out because I would like have sex or get caught with drugs or there's a bunch of different reasons why I got kicked out. It was usually just sex. I was getting caught with dudes. I hated who I was, and I hated myself, and I was punishing myself, and sex is self-harm for me. So my parents knew. My parents knew, but they really didn't know what to do, and all they could do was protect my children. So my parents, I think, were really in denial. And I remember one time I had told my parents that I was not on the pills, I wasn't on methadone, and I was still on methadone. I was still doing the pills. And I remember my aunt driving by the methadone clinic and seeing me there and telling my mom. And they didn't know what to do. Like, what do you do? Like, so not much was said. My parents felt bad for me. There were times where after they had taken my daughter that I would show up there and my mom would just rock me in her arms. Or she'd go and buy me oxys and she would give me little pieces every once in a while so I wasn't dope sick, because there was a time when our city was completely, everybody, all the pharmacies were getting robbed, everybody was in jail, people were robbing banks and shit because everyone was so desperate for oxys. Because if you know anything about oxycontin and the science behind it and what that motherfucking shit does to your brain, that shit rewires your brain. You turn into an animal. It is a primal fucking existence where you're literally seek, obtain, consume, and start over. Like, get your drugs, do them, and start over. Like, that was your life. Um, so when that happened, my mom and dad were just like, because my cousin was also, my mom's sister's son was also hooked on them. So the family was just like, what do we do with these kids? Like, they didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what the fuck to do. And at the time, the city was so fucked up. All the methadone clinics were full. So nobody could even get on methadone. There was like a 6-month wait list. And I remember my little brother buying me methadone on the street from people and dosing me. Or my mom buying, like, I'd bring my mom to the dope house, get my mom to give me money for pills, go get pills, and then I give them to her. I remember one time she went on a cruise or some vacation and she left me with my grandmother. And I was a mother at this time. So I was old. I was in my late 20s probably. And did my mom not give the pills to my fucking 75-year-old grandmother to piece me off every couple hours so I wasn't sick? No families know how to navigate this shit, especially in the time where I was coming up from, like the early 2000s, when like all this shit was new and nobody knew like what the fuck you do when you're faced with this dilemma. Like, what would you do? I have a child that struggles with addiction. I kicked her motherfucking ass out because there ain't no way I'm enabling. My parents didn't know what they were doing, okay? But I know better, so I do better. She's better now. She's home. We're doing amazing. She's fantastic. She's sober. But my parents enabled my disease. What do you do when your baby comes to you and they're dope sick and you've got money and they're asking, Mom, please, just $40. Please, please. I'm so sick, Mom, please. You've seen Basketball Diaries. It's the same thing. So my parents didn't know what to do. I do not blame my mom and dad for anything that happened, but I know because I have the life experience that I do, that you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do what my parents did. They did it because they were broken. They saw a little baby when they would look at me and be like, I can't let my little girl be sick like that. I can. I can. You go through the fucking withdrawal, bro. That's what they should have done. But anyways, we know better, we do better. That's actually the next episode. That's the name of the next episode coming up on our Full Circle podcast. It's called We Know Better, We Do Better, where we go into all of our childhood. So the link is somewhere on my page, the Full Circle podcast. Me and my best friend, my son's mom, we co-host it together. It's a great, great podcast. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about my family, because they tried so fucking hard. They tried so fucking hard. And my mom, as much as she likes to pretend that she doesn't like me very much, I know how much she loves me. And I know how hard it was for my parents to see and to try to protect my children from me and from my sickness, with also being my parents at the same time, because they loved me. They didn't want me to die. They didn't want me in jail. Maybe they wanted me in jail because they knew I was safe. Um, but they didn't know what to do. And like a lot of people think that because I'm talking about my parents that I blame them. And I've had comments like, "Oh, you shouldn't blame your parents." Not one for one motherfucking second do I blame my mom and dad. My mom and dad did the best that they could. Okay. They didn't, they're living for the first time too. Do you think there was a handbook on what to do when the school calls and says your kid's doing ketamine in the bathroom? No, there is no fucking handbook. There might be today in 2025, but in 2001, no, there fucking was not. So my parents did the best they could with what they had. And my mom is such an investigator. So she will educate herself on everything. So my mom knows about methadone and Suboxone. And my mom is extremely educated that addiction is not a choice. You choose to experiment, but your body has a predisposition or a hereditary element to it that takes the choice away once the addiction is established. My parents know that. My parents know that. So that's all you can do is just educate yourself. If you have teenagers and you live in a city that's struggling with a particular drug epidemic, you should know everything about that fucking drug and everything that is going on in your community if you have children. Period. My parents didn't know any of that shit because they were living and doing it for the first time back in a time where we didn't even talk about mental health. We weren't even allowed to be gay. My kid goes to school 3 days a week because of mental health. Bitch, we weren't allowed to have feelings. It's a different time. So you can't compare. That's when people are like, you blame your parents. No, I'm just telling you how it was back in the fucking day. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is a really good question. Was there a time where you were ever a functioning addict? And she says, I hate this word because there is no such thing as a functioning addict. I think me and you would really jive. I don't want to name drop, but you and I would really jive because I say that every day on my TikTok. There is no such thing as a functioning addict because you're functioning until you're not functioning. That's why when I was like, oh, we weren't that bad. We were just doing opiates. That's what I mean by that. We were functioning. You know, we had a place, we had a car, we had food in the fridge. We were doing the bare minimum and the rest was going to drugs, but we were functioning. From the outside, you would see a beautiful little picture of a beautiful little family. And that's why when people are like, oh, I saw her Facebook, she's such a good mom. You said the same shit about me back in 2017, 2015, but you didn't know I was covered in track marks, did you? No, because Facebook doesn't isn't reality, bro. So you don't know shit about shit by looking at someone's Facebook. But at the time, yeah, I was functioning, but you're functioning until you're not. That's why I showed that picture because not even a year later, I was out on the stroll looking like this, shaking my ass for a fucking rock while my family was taking care of my children. So yeah, it went down. It happened in 60 days. Within 60 days from the moment I tried IV cocaine to the moment Children's Aid took my children, it was only a couple months, max 90 days, max 3 months, because I held on to the bitter end. And I remember crying in my best friend's basement, looking at her, going, I'm going to lose my kids. I'm going to lose my kids. And she was like, no, you're not. Bitch, we both ended up losing our kids, her and I. So yeah, you really are functioning until you're not. And I hear that a lot, like, oh, I was a functioning addict. I'm like, and then what happened? Bitch, you weren't functioning then. You spiraled, right? Yeah. Because there's no such thing. There's no such thing at all. And I used to say the dumbest shit to myself, like, oh, I'm a better parent high than most are sober. I fucking said shit like that. What? I'm a good mom. My kids are fed. My bills are paid. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. You're on the verge of getting evicted, Melissa. Right? Yeah. You're not functioning. But I thought I was from the outside, maybe because Jamie was like, you were a good actress. My best friend, she's like, you were a good actress back then. I would have had no clue you and him were doing drugs. And I'm like, we were doing drugs the whole motherfucking time, bitch. Um, so do you have any type of co-parenting with the father of your children? No. So my two oldest have the same dad. He contributed his seed. Um, but he's not a dad. He's never been a dad. He's never parented. He's not allowed around my 11-year-old. He's an evil sociopath, addict, alcoholic, basket case of a human. So no, he's not even allowed to have any contact with my 11-year-old. My 19-year-old, my 18-year-old, she does have contact with him, but it's more of a friend. He's a buddy of hers. I'm sure like he's very abusive to her, but she's an adult, right? So I can't say like you're not allowed to see your dad because she's an adult and she'll make choices. But like I'll give you an example. This is how much of a narcissistic sociopath this man is. My daughter's never left this city. She's was raised by my parents in the suburbs. She's very sheltered, has been very sheltered. But she went down south to see because her dad doesn't even he took off. He left the town. He doesn't even live in the same city as my kids. He hasn't seen my 11-year-old in years, okay? Um, but Cadence went down there to where he is, and he got all drunk and belligerent and abusive and kicked out my child in the middle of the night. I got a phone call at like 2 o'clock in the morning when she was stuck in Hamilton. I'm up in Sudbury and she doesn't know where she's at because dad kicked her out. She had to leave because he was getting abusive. He treats her like she's his girlfriend. Like it's a sick, fucked up dynamic. But like I said, she's an adult. So if she wants to have a relationship with the sick fuck, I can't dictate that. She knows who her dad is. But my 11-year-old, I am allowed to protect her from it, and she will not be having contact until she's older, which like I'm saying, a late adolescence. Until then, no, he doesn't exist in my head, in our lives at all. My middle daughter, she's got the best dad ever. Him and I don't co-parent because she lives full time with her aunt. So we rotate 3 ways. Okay. I actually have to leave in like 20 minutes to go pick her up at school. So I get her once a week after school. We've got so much time with her. It's 50-50 in the summer, but I co-parent with my sister-in-law. So my ex's sister took her because we were all fucked up. And when I got clean, I did file for full custody. And we fought for 3 years. And at the end, my daughter, who was 9 at the time, said, Mom, like, I really just want to stay with Auntie, but I want to be able to see you whenever. And I was like, say no more, Pookie. That's all you needed to say. And I stopped. I stopped the court proceedings. And even though there's been a lot of like pain and anger and resentment, the relationship I have with her aunt is a gift. Her aunt is amazing. And we beat the shit out of each other at one point. Like we were not friends. Okay. We hated each other, but we have such a good relationship today. And she really allows me to be my daughter's mom, even though I don't have her full time. So right now I have my 11-year-old full time. My 19-year-old is here. And then Emily's with us. We all share her between the 3 of us, and her dad is amazing. Her dad left me to go get clean. Her dad left my ass to go get clean for his kid. So he's amazing. He's such a good dad. He's got a good job. He's sober. He's thriving. He's an amazing person. That's why I really don't like to talk about him as much as I did before, because I've really come to realize that he got clean first and he gets to have a second chance. And just because whatever we brought out the worst in each other, it doesn't mean that I was not just as abusive and I was not just as fucked up as he is, because he's an amazing dad today. And I'm so lucky to have her dad for that little girl. So I'm loving these questions. So this one says, I know you said you were on Ozempic. That's one of my fears. If you stop using, would you gain more weight? Did you start using Ozempic before or after you got clean? And then she goes, by the way, you're fucking gorgeous. I would have never guessed you were 40. I'm like, Pookie, you're best. We're besties now. Okay. I like you. Yeah, I'll be 40 in October. And I also have a filter on. There we go. No filter, bitch. You can see all the fine lines and wrinkles. So, anyways, okay. I was a year sober when I got on Ozempic. So I was always a fat girl. Okay. I was fat and active addiction. So this is me, the first shot of Ozempic. I was 300 pounds. So I was like 298, I think. That is a year into my recovery. And this is me today. I've lost 130 pounds. I was very lucky. But yeah, definitely that everybody's like, oh my God, how'd you lose so much weight if you're in recovery? I've gained so much weight. I'm like, Ozempic, bitch. If you can, excuse me, if you can get on it, it's not even just being used for weight loss now. It's being used for other issues like impulse control. And that's what food addiction is. It's just an impulse control issue where you're feeding into your cravings. Like I as soon as I cuz I go off of it every once in a while, like this whole month, I couldn't it's a $300 a month and I just can't afford it. So I go on and off of it, and the month that I went off Ozempic, I gained 10 pounds right away. So I was like, "Oh, I need my O's." So I'll probably be on and off for life, but I feel amazing. And I really tell people that like once you're in recovery, being fat is not gonna kill you. Like being an addict will fucking kill you. So if you're contemplating getting better and worried about being fat you can deal with later. Being fat is not an issue. You can die tomorrow if you're using. Do you get what I'm saying? So once I had my recovery on lock, so I was about a year sober, then I went and talked to my doctor and I was like, I am huge. Like I was huge in active addiction, but like I'm huger. Help me. And he was like, well, you can try this. And I did, and I had amazing success. Lots of people can't handle Ozempic because the side effects are so bad. Like you'll shit your pants. I've shit my pants. I've shit my pants so many times. That's just Ozempic. I barfed and shit my pants. I shit my pants in the Dollarama. I shit my pants in the car and had to walk to the house from the fucking parking lot. That's just Ozempic, but I'm skinny. I'm skinny. I got down to like, and for me, 150 pounds, I look 90 pounds. So Jamie Lee says it in the podcast. She's like, yeah, after you lost the kids, I saw you and you were unrecognizable. In reality, she's like, because I was so skinny. I was like, yeah, I was really skinny. She's like, you were like 90 pounds. In reality, the skinniest that I've ever been in my life is 160 pounds because I'm so tall. I hold my weight well. But I wasn't 90 pounds. I was 170 pounds when I was sick in active addiction. And that's what I am now. I'm 170 pounds and I feel healthy. I feel better. I did get down to like 150 pounds and I was just like, damn, no, that's too much. So I would go off of it for a bit. And that's what I'll just continue to do. But yeah, I was always somebody who struggled with my weight. Like that was a huge part of why I was on substances, is because it would keep my weight relatively low. And if I wasn't using every day, I would gain weight. And I like, nobody talks about this. And I really think it should be talked about how many women use substances as a means to fucking stay skinny or to stay at a healthy weight. When you've struggled with weight your whole life, like me, like I've never been a little girl. I've always been the fat chick, which is whatever. I've got the face card eats, right? So I don't care. But I don't feel good about myself at 300 fucking pounds. You know what I mean? You know? So I really waited until I knew my recovery was well and taken care of. And then I started on this like self-love journey. And that included getting on Ozempic and losing weight and changing my relationship with food. Um, but I know once I go off Ozempic, I'm going to gain it all back. That's why I'll probably never go off of it. But there's nothing wrong with that. Just like I'll probably never go off the Sublocade injection because it saved my life and it's kept me sober. The same as Ozempic. It saved my life and it's kept me so I can play with my fucking children. So I can walk up a flight of stairs and not feel like I'm having a fucking heart attack. So I can run or jog and not feel like my knees are going to give out. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with working on yourself once you're good in your recovery. Anyways, that looks like those are all the questions. If you guys have questions, please, there is the email. I just posted it. I'll put it here. And please send any questions that you want about yourself. I would love to hear your stories. I do have another podcast where we would love to read stories from people who are in recovery. So if that is you, and if you want to share or ask anything, nothing is off limits. We don't mince words around here and we're honest and real. So you can ask whatever the fuck you want to ask, bitch. Anyways, I will talk to you guys soon. Take care, Miigwech. Okay, and we're back. I probably shouldn't even be driving and answering questions, but like that's my vibe. So whatever. We're gonna call it Tales from the car. Um I forgot the clip, so I'm gonna be holding my microphone in the car while I'm driving. I'm sure the cops are gonna like this when they see me. At least I have a phone stand. At least I have a phone stand, right? I used to hold my phone. Don't tell nobody I did that, but I used to until I got this stand thingy. Um, so I have a couple other questions that I really want to answer, and I'm almost positive I got this message. It was an email yesterday. I got a bunch of emails yesterday, but just the way that she worded this question just sounds to me like she may be in active addiction. And she asked, "How did you keep going after you lost your children?" Oh my God, signal fuck. Um, how did you move on? How did you live after you lost your kids? I didn't. I didn't. I existed. I existed, but I didn't live. Like I told myself that I was not good for them, that they deserved better. Um, I took all their pictures off the walls. I didn't want to see them. There was a long period when I didn't want to see them, and then there was times where I would try to see them. Like with every addict, and I'm so sorry that it's shaking so bad. Like this city is just so terrible, and I'm in part of a neighborhood that's just awful. And I don't know why I went this way. Ooh, there's a nice coffee table on the side of the road. Damn, I'm such a garbage picker. It's got a bottom to it. Oh no, it's gross. Oh, anyways, I'm such a garbage picker. I will pull over to the side of the road and put shit in my trunk so goddamn fast if I like it. I like to paint stuff that I find on the side of the road. That's a hobby that I have. So, anyways, yeah, I didn't live after I lost my kids. I was punishing myself. I punished myself with sex work. Doing sex work was a form of self harm for me, 110%. So yeah, I didn't live. I convinced myself that they were better off, that I was never going to get them back, first of all. Um, and I didn't want to, like, I didn't want nothing to do with it. Like, I remember being in the trap, and it was right after my kids had went to live with my mom. And I didn't know this at the time, but my mother-in-law, who had my daughter, go, bro, fuck. Sorry. My mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law that had my daughter, I guess decided she didn't want to keep her anymore after a couple weeks. So she was going to put her in care. And my parents, I guess, got her for a visit, and she never left. She ended up staying with my parents. But my mom already had my other daughter and then my other daughter. So, and Emily didn't really adjust as well as Aria did. So she was having a lot of like just normal toddler meltdowns. But like my parents were old, they couldn't do it. Like they were having a hard time. And I don't blame them. I don't blame anybody that took my kids and then decided that it was too much. Like, it was nobody's fault but my own. So, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, I remember I was in the trap and getting an email or a message from my brother saying, like, what the fuck, Mel? Your kid's gonna end up in foster care. Mom and dad can't keep her. And I didn't care. I didn't fucking care. I was so convinced that they would figure it out, they would handle it like my family. I was so convinced that like they could fucking deal with it. Like I'm busy. I'm busy getting high. I'm busy trying to kill myself. So yeah, I didn't think anything. I didn't want to be a parent. I literally looked at CIS. So we had this meeting after my mom took my kids. And my mom was like, we made a plan, you're going to go to rehab, because at first it was just like a kinship thing where there would be no court. And I'll never understand the choices that Melissa was making. And I say this all the time, but I would love to take that stupid bitch by the throat and fucking just Oh, the things I would do to Melissa of 2016. I would smash her fucking face in if I ever had the opportunity. Because what the actual fuck? You just abandoned your kids, you fucking dumb whore? Like, are you okay? Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I didn't know. I still don't know why. I was sick. I was so sick. Um, but I've really had to let that guilt go. As I've evolved, I've had to let that guilt go. But anyways, I remember my brother messaging me, telling me, your kid's going to foster care. And then we had a meeting with CAS and my mom was like, okay, you're going to go to rehab. We're going to let you keep the house because they had bought us a house. We're going to let you keep the house. He can't live there. And you're going to go to rehab and you're going to get better and you're going to come back and be a mom again. And I just went, no, mom, no. I don't want to be a mom right now. I don't want to be a mom. Sorry. I left. I literally got up from the meeting and left and drove back to my girlfriend's house, and CAS followed me. And when I say CAS, it's the Children's Aid Society. That's Ontario. I'm in Canada, so it's just child protection. It's DHS or whatever. CPS. So I said no, and CPS followed me to my girlfriend's house, and I opened the door, and she was like, Melissa, like, we have a plan, like, you're such a good mom, like, we know you can do it, we know you can get better. And I was just like, no, I'm good. I don't want to be a mom. I looked her right in the face and was like, I don't want to be a mom. I just want to get high, to be quite fair. If you want me to be honest, sorry. And I'm actually proud of myself that I wasn't like, yeah, okay, and then just like allowed my children to suffer. I was like, no, I'm in no fucking position to be doing any kind of shit like that. I don't want to go to fucking rehab. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And I said, if he wants to get better, and I was talking about their dad, if he wants to get better, help him. Because we had separated, and he was trying like really hard to help his mom with Emily, and he was trying, but we were just so fucked up. So I had said, like, help him. He wants to get better. I don't. Like, leave me alone kind of thing. And that's what I did. I went off and I went to this trap. And I remember, so my girlfriend at the time, I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's so fucking unhinged. We were really, really sick. And she was smoking crack at this point. I was doing IV cocaine, and we were in no position to be around children, but she still had her children. And I remember there was needles all over, and I had said to her, you need to give them up. Like, you need to find somewhere for these fucking kids to go, man, because this is not healthy. So do you want me to leave, or are we going to drop these kids off somewhere safe? Because, like, if you want me to go, I'll go. And no, she agreed with me. And we went to her cousin's and dropped them off and never looked back. And then we were living in this trap house. And I had gotten this girl into sex work. I got her smoking crack. Well, no, I didn't get her smoking crack. She did that all on her own. I told her, I said, you take one puff, you'll be on Backpage within a week. And sure enough, I was right. So that part wasn't my fault. She liked her crack. But anyways, I put her in a position where she would have even been like, I'm the one that brought that stuff around, right? So anyways, it's all my fault. It really was. That poor girl. But she ended up getting her kids back, and she's great now. But we gave her kids up. We literally, and then we were living in this trap, and we had just gotten home from the telly. I'm gonna run out of time. And all of a sudden, we're walking out. We're gonna go get our nails done, and we see these two plain clothes. They look like detective. I'm like, yo, those are cops. And she's like, you sure? And I'm like, yep. And they come right towards us, and they're like, and they say my name, and they say her name, and it was CAS. It was child protection. You've been served. Your children have all been apprehended because we didn't follow through with the plan, so it was no longer considered a kinship. They were apprehending. The kids didn't go anywhere. The kids still stayed with our parents, but the Children's Aid Society had custody over them at that point, and they were the ones that were going to be making decisions because we didn't follow through with the plan that they had. The plan was to go to rehab, and we said no. We said no. We want to get high, bitch. So they came and served us with papers in the trap, at the trap house. And John had called CAS because we had sang in this tune about having kids and needing money, and then he called Children's Aid on us, and that's how they ended up figuring out where we were. So they came in and served us. Okay, so I have a really good question that just came in. So she's asking, do you have fears about sharing your story today? Are you comfortable talking about everything? And are you nervous that because you're so open and honest about what I've experienced, are you worried that it may jeopardize your future? And the answer is so simple. No. No. I feel like this and what I'm doing is the reason I got sober. I don't know anybody that is as vocal about recovery as I am. I do have a lot of friends that are very, they enjoy talking about being in recovery and they're very open about being in recovery, but it's not their life. They may make posts on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, but it's not their life. This is my life. Making content that helps people in recovery or people in active addiction or loved ones of addicts has become my purpose. So no, I literally don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. If you don't like the things that I did in active addiction, that's great. I really hope you don't, because I don't like what I did in active addiction. But it doesn't negate the fact that it happened. And if you're going to judge Trap House Mel for the choices she made, I don't want to fuck with you anyways. Whether that be a job, an opportunity, anything like that. Even my children, like, if you don't want your children to hang out with my children because of what I talk about online and because how vulnerable I am online and because I'm so open and honest and raw about my journey and my recovery and my past experiences, if that's not the type of person I want around my children anyways. Because if you can't see my story as something to, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Do you know anybody who's come back the way I have? Probably not, because it's not the norm. So why wouldn't I take this extremely rare opportunity to use my horrific experiences to help others today? It's like I have a voice that I've always wanted to use, that I knew I had. So imagine if I got sober and didn't do this, knowing that I could, for fear of retribution or lost opportunities or, lost relationships. Like if you don't like the fact that I come out here and I talk about that I was a sex worker and that I was charged with human trafficking, if you are uncomfortable with that, you are not the type of person I want in my life or my children's life. That's just like really how it is, because people who are in my life are fucking proud of me. They push me to make this content. And if they don't, I don't really fuck with them. I have boundaries with them. Like, there's one particular person that is very close to my life and very close to my heart. And I love her with like, she's my mother. But she doesn't like it. She doesn't like this. But you know what? Who are her friends asking to be guest speakers and to talk to, she may not be okay with it, but I know everybody else is. So, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, mommy, but I could still be out there doing what I was doing. Instead, I'm here making you proud. And if you're not proud, that's on you, Pooks. Because, bitch, I'm proud. Everybody else around us are proud. I know she's proud. I don't want to dog on my mom. Doris is good shit. But she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She's like, why do you have to come out here and talk about human trafficking? Why do you have to? You could talk about all that shit without saying that you were involved. I'm like, Pookie, no. Honest, real, and raw. That is me. Like, those 3 words are included in every single message I get. So why would I not be genuine? Why would I not tell you guys that, yeah, fuck yeah, I went out there, I sold my soul for my drugs of choice, but look at where I am today. Look at where I am today. You can't have one without the other. You can't say, oh, I'm so lucky to be in recovery without explaining the experiences you had in active addiction. So no, I can't come out here and do what I'm doing without being honest about what I did. And if you don't like it, that sounds like a you problem to me. I'm sure there are people that are like, ooh, I don't want my kids hanging out with Mel's kids. And, you know, if you want to judge me for my worst, like, when you're in active addiction, you're in a horrific mental health crisis, right? So that would be like judging somebody who had postpartum depression, somebody who had schizophrenia, somebody who had bipolar, somebody who had BPD, somebody who was manic and made really bad choices because of their mental health. That would be like judging them for coming back from it and speaking about what they experienced. It's the same fucking thing. But there's such a stigma around addiction that people are like, oh, why do you gotta talk like that? Oh, I don't want my kids. Well, then don't let your kids. Pookie, like, when your kid has no education and is out there making adult decisions that's going to affect the rest of their life when they're teenagers, send them to me, and then you won't be so, you know, like, it's just, it's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck, because it's always these people that are the first to be like, hey, my daughter's really struggling. Do you think that you can ask your friend Mel if she could, like, message me? It's always the people that are like, ooh, I don't like that she's so honest. It's always those people. And do you think I'd ever be like, no, because you don't support? No, I'm always like it. So no, I don't care what anybody says. On the flip side, if you were involved in my active addiction story, I will try my damnedest not to out you. But people know, Pookie. People know who was involved, and people know who I was with, and people know what was done to me. And I'm very selective about what I talk about now, because I'm not going to come out here and poison my daughter's dad's name. I don't do that anymore. I really try not to do that anymore, because that does not get us anywhere besides backwards, and I'm not going backwards. So there are people that were involved that I really try to let everybody understand that this person was sick. And even though they did do these things, I did too. And we were both not well. That does not make them a bad person. My first baby dad, bad person. I don't mince words when it comes to that fucking piece of shit. Like, I could care less. Yes, you fucking beat me up. Yes, you put me in the hospital. Yes, you fucking did horrific shit in front of your children. Yeah, like, yes, you've never fucking had a bank account. You're homeless. Like, you're an alcoholic. You're 50 years old, still doing the same shit you were doing when I met you when you were 20. Period. But my other baby dad, no, because he's changed his whole life, and I will never, ever come out here again. I really, 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 really try not to. I try to block his face, because he's an amazing dad. He's an amazing dad. So yeah, he was a lot of things to me, and we brought the worst out in each other, but I will never, ever use my platform to poison my baby dad's reputation. I really try not to. I've really grown in the last year since court's been done. I've really, really tried to evolve in that regard, because I had a lot of hurt that really was my own doing, and I was just as abusive. So there are people that I really try to protect. There's friends of mine that are in recovery that I don't want people to know who I'm talking about. So yeah, I will try my best not to, like, use their names and stuff like that. But honestly, if you were there, sorry, not sorry kind of thing. Like, your story is my story. It's your story too, and you have every right to come out here and tell it, but bitch, don't tell me I can't. Do not tell me I can't. Unless you want to get lawyers involved and do a cease and desist, Pookie, like, I'm going to always talk about what I went through. And if you were a part of what I went through, you better call me up and say, Pookie, I don't want you talking about me on the internet. I better fucking hear from you, or I'm sorry that you're a part of my story. You will be told. I just won't say your name, and I will not portray you in a bad light, especially if you're doing well today. Like, the father of my children, of my youngest daughter, is doing amazing. He's an amazing person. He's a good dad. He's a good son. He's a good brother. He's a good uncle. Like, he's a good friend. I will never come out here and poison his reputation. But it doesn't mean that what happened didn't happen. And I still get to talk about it. Period.